Have you ever stopped to think about what makes a great esports match truly legendary? Because it's not just about the players, right? It's that voice, the one that cuts through all the chaos, breaks down the strategy, and gets your heart absolutely pounding. Well, today we're going to dive right into the art and science of shoutcasting.
Yeah, we've all heard calls just like that one. You know the kind? The ones that give you instant goosebumps? It's wild how a single voice can take a game-winning play and just stamp it into history, making it unforgettable. That, right there, is the magic of a great shoutcaster.
But here's the thing, it's so much more than just having a loud voice and loving video games. It's a real craft, a discipline, and for a lot of people, a full-blown profession. So in this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain and break down what it actually takes to master this art and become the voice of competitive gaming. All right, so let's start at the very beginning with the fundamentals. What even is shoutcasting? And maybe more importantly, why has it become so absolutely critical to the whole esports world? Well, probably the easiest way to think about it is like this. A shoutcaster is a real-time translator. They're the bridge between all the super complex, fast-paced action happening on screen and, well, what it all means for you, the viewer. Their whole job is to make the game understandable, exciting, and something you can really connect with emotionally. And you gotta understand, shoutcasting isn't just some nice-to-have bonus feature. No way. It's totally foundational to the whole experience. It's what makes these complex games accessible to newcomers. It cranks up the hype during big moments. It weaves these incredible stories around players and teams. And it teaches you the deep strategy of the game, all while keeping millions of people glued to their screens for hours on end. And speaking of millions, the scale we're talking about here is just massive. I mean, by 2025, the global esports audience is expected to be over 640 million viewers. Just let that number sink in. That's 640 million people counting on casters to make sense of every single play and keep that energy electric. So yeah, the demand for talented voices, it has never, ever been higher. So how in the world does a broadcast juggle all of this at once? Well, it usually comes down to a classic dynamic duo. Let's break down the two key roles that are pretty much the heart of every professional esports broadcast. Okay, so on one side, you've got the play-by-play caster, or the PBP. This is your hype caster. They're the ones narrating the action as it happens. Super fast, super high energy. Then, on the other side, you've got the color commentator, or the analyst. This person's job is to explain the why behind everything, the strategy, the backstory, the implications. And honestly, the chemistry between these two, that's the secret sauce. That's what takes a broadcast from just good to truly unforgettable. One tells you what just happened, the other tells you why it's a big deal. Now, this is where it gets super interesting. How do these casters actually master their craft? Well, it's not just raw talent. They have a whole toolkit of techniques they use to control the flow, the pace, and the entire emotional journey of a match. One of the biggest tools is what's called the energy scale. The best casters are always, and I mean always, managing their energy on a scale from 1 to 10. Down at a 1 to 3, they're calm, they're analytical. During normal gameplay, they'll bump it up to a 4 to 6, keeping things engaging. When a big team fight breaks out, okay, now we're in the 7 or 8 range. Things are getting exciting. But that level 10, that peak hype, oh, that is sacred ground. It's saved only for the plays that win the entire game, the moments that make history. Because if you use it all the time, it just means nothing. It's kind of like a roller coaster, right? If the whole ride was just one giant nonstop drop, it wouldn't be fun. It would just be exhausting. It's the slow clicks up the hill, those quiet moments of analysis, the dips, that make the huge, screaming drops so incredibly thrilling. That contrast is everything. So for those play-by-play casters, when things get super chaotic, clarity is absolutely king. And to achieve that, they lean on a really simple but incredibly powerful structure. Who is making the play, what are they doing, and what is the impact? It works so well because it's the exact order our brains are trying to figure things out in a crazy moment. So you hear something like, Faker, the who, lands a massive shockwave on 3, the what, and that is going to be the fight and the series, the impact. See, it's just clean, it's powerful, and it cuts right through all the noise. Okay, so you're probably thinking, how does someone actually go from, casting games in their bedroom to doing it on a massive stage? Well, that journey from hobby to profession is a really fascinating one, and it's almost always built from the ground up. And believe it or not, this whole thing really started back in the 90s. You had fans using this internet radio software, and get this, it was literally called Shoutcast, to broadcast Quake and StarCraft matches from their basements. Then in the 2000s, Korea just blew the whole thing up, professionalizing it with televised StarCraft and creating the first celebrity casters. Fast forward to the 2010s, and with Twitch exploding, games like League of Legends and CSGO took casting global. And now, here we are, in an era where it's a legitimate, full-blown career, with casters headlining events with millions of viewers. And for pretty much everyone trying to make it, the path has 4 main stages. You almost always start as a volunteer, just casting community tournaments to get your reps in and build experience. If you're good, you move up to semi-pro, getting paid for regional gigs and building a name for yourself. From there, the goal is a professional contract with a major league. And then, for the absolute best of the best, you have the top tier, casting those huge international championships. But look, we gotta have a little reality check here. This journey can take years of grinding. It's fueled by pure, relentless passion. Seriously, every single professional caster you love watching today started in the exact same spot, practicing their craft over and over, usually to a room with absolutely no one in it. That dedication, that consistency, that's what separates the people who just dream about it from the ones who actually do it. When you finally get that mic, the responsibility is just immense. You're the storyteller, you're the analyst, you're the hype machine, all rolled into one. You really hold the power to turn a simple in-game play into a memory that people will talk about for years. So, whether you're just a fan who maybe now sees the craft in a whole new light, or you're an aspiring caster who's ready to start that grind, just remember this. Every single match is a story waiting to be told. The only real question left is, what story will your voice tell?
Sporty है तेरा जवाब